Hey everybody, it's Tanya and I'm back with Liz. Today we're going to try something different. We're actually just gonna talk a little bit about, in general, our thoughts around a hot topic. In particular, we're gonna talk a little bit about this world of subscription boxes and curated products. Just for a little bit of background, subscription boxes have been around for like ever. uh, right? You probably remember your parents getting like the orange of the month club or something like that. But maybe about back in 2010, Birchbox came on the scene and started doing subscription boxes, particularly around cosmetics. The whole idea that you could try a new product without necessarily having to go down to Sephora and beg for a sample. Since then, this has grown in a number of different ways. You got boxes like Blue Apron who bring you food just like you like it so that you can go ahead and cook it without ever having to go to the grocery store. But anyway, this trend is growing and changing, and I think there's no one else better to speak to about it than Liz. Liz, give me a quick rundown of what you think of what's going on with all of this.
Yeah, it's interesting when you were talking about these services have been around forever. I think back to as a kid, my favorite subscription service was actually the Columbia Records monthly club. So I don't know if you remember this, but they used to send out these paper sheets, and for a penny a record, you could actually get new vinyl or a new cassette. I know I'm like aging myself, but eventually CDs. But you could go down the list and sort of pick out what CDs that you wanted. And then I think eventually, like after maybe 6 months or something, they started charging you a monthly fee. But I've been experiencing these from music, and now coming from sort of Columbia Records penny of the month club or whatever to Spotify. I've tried out Latote. I've done Stitch Fix. I've taken a look at things like Mac and Mia for my kids. I actually just got my first shipment of HelloFresh yesterday because a friend of mine sent it to me for free as a thank you. So all this, I think, my headline is that we're trying to get to personalization at scale. And so you see this sort of confluence of subscription services, but with an overlay of what's your style, or how can we tweak what we're sending you to be more relevant, and then hopefully ultimately keep you as a more loyal customer. So happy to talk about, if you want to get into those experiences or anything like that, that'd be great.
Yeah, all right. I actually want to know, well, and you just got your first HelloFresh, so love to talk to you a little bit more about life after you've tried that. But I thought that, I've always admired the subscription boxes, but I'm going to be honest, I am one of those people who manages not to delve in, especially into the food ones. Like, I have food allergies, and I'm always so afraid about committing to something and realizing that I can't use it. And yet I notice a lot of people who are in a similar situation as I sort of figure out, still do it. What sort of you think is like that magic that makes people actually like willing to go ahead and do something like a Blue Apron?
Yeah, it's interesting because I also have food allergies. I'm gluten-free and have been for like 14 years. So it was interesting. I mean, they did give you the option to select a gluten-free box, so that's there. I think from just if we take HelloFresh as an example, I've been very blessed insofar as my husband is an amazing chef and loves to cook. And so I don't think, while I appreciate the gift from my best friend, I don't think we're actually the target market for it, which seems odd, right? Because we're, both working parents. We've got 2 young kids under 3. In terms of time and convenience, you would think that something like this would be amazing. But when I opened the box, I was kind of underwhelmed. One of the recipes was like chicken, lemon chicken and green beans. And I'm like, like, I hate to be a snob about it, but my husband's cooking is at such a level where, we don't even go out unless we feel like the restaurant's at a certain place for us to actually spend, the premium to have a meal because he's so good. So I'm kind of, it's interesting. Like, again, and I think we talked about this last time we chatted, segmenting a market just based on demographics or what kind of appears to be a target can sometimes be deceiving, right? So like going under the surface and really saying like, no, like what does this person care about? What does this person value? If you were sending me recipes in a box from like Thomas Keller at the, French Laundry or something, and you gave me all the ingredients and step-by-step instructions and the thumbs up ready to go, then I might be pretty excited about it. But lemon chicken with green beans, not as exciting. So I don't, while it checks the boxes of gluten-free and all of those things, it doesn't mesh with who we are and what we value. So I think that's really the crux of getting people to subscribe and be loyal to those types of services.
Got it. And so a couple thoughts before I actually focus on what we're talking about.
Sure, sure, yeah.
I'm also gluten-free, and so I am, and I hear that your husband's a good cook, is what you just said, and you just invited me over for dinner.
Yeah. Anytime.
Hey, next time I'm in Chicago, I've got you and the other Liz to come visit.
Yeah.
But then additionally, like I kind of hear you in terms of like, understanding more of your target audience. I too am like a fairly decent cook, and like getting into that next layer. I feel like I get all of these advertisements all of the time in my mailbox. By the way, I am an older millennial. I don't use my mailbox, and so I go into it, and all of these things fall out, and it just sort of boggles my mind, because on one hand, I feel like they're targeting millennials or people who don't have a lot of time, but on the other hand, like the way they're even advertising is inconsistent with the people they're trying to get to buy the box. So nevertheless, kind of want to know who you think is doing the subscription box or the curated box well.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I mean, like I said, I've tried a number of these different services. I was pretty loyal to Stitch Fix for, I'd say, even 18 months, and even traversed from not being pregnant into maternity and tried their maternity lines and whatnot. And I did feel like I gave extensive feedback, because that's just me. I'm like, you guys are trying to do something new. I want to give you as much feedback and help as possible, because it benefits me in the end if you take my feedback to heart. I think they did pretty well, but what I noticed over that sort of 18 months plus, that I was getting a monthly subscription. So this was, 6 pieces of clothing every single month, and I was pretty much keeping at least one thing, if not maybe up to 3 or 4 things every month. The quality of their merchandise started to go down, and I don't know if that was because they were scaling, they needed to cut cost or whatnot, but eventually that differential between price and value and sort of quality and that trade-off really flipped on its head for me. So even though they were still listening to my feedback and providing, they were very responsive and providing, good feedback or good service overall, the quality of their product didn't align to the service level that they were providing. So I think that is also something, again, just thinking about holistically of these types of products and services. And I kind of go back to even my experience at Disney. I was working at Disney parks online, and we were creating digital experiences, but if those experiences didn't match to the experience in the park or the actual product, then there was a failure, right? So I think that extends to any product or service you provide, but that was something just in terms of Stitch Fix. Like I think they started off great, but eventually the quality of their product, in my opinion, went down. So like I said, other services, I've just gotten onto HelloFresh on the sort of the food side of the world, but would love to hear about your experiences too. Like if you've started to think about them or tried services or other experiences that would be comparable.
Yeah, I have looked a lot into some of these clothing ones or like the cosmetic ones. So I'm not going to really call them out, but I will describe. There is a lingerie brand, and that basically they get you in, and you get your first outfit for like 20 bucks or so, and then it goes back up to 40. And then once a
Mm.
month, based off of your style, they'll send you something additional. Also, I've looked into the ones where like same thing for nail polish or, yoga clothes.
Mhm.
And, for me, there were two levels of turn off. Like I was really engaged. I was always ready to like click the button. But there were two things. One was the quality.
Mhm.
And two, there's also the side of, hey, actually, you know what? After I get one or two, I'm going to be really bored. And
Mhm.
here's why, is because every single one of your options are really just a permutation of the first.
Mm.
You've changed the ribbon color, or you've changed, the color, like basically the color of a nail polish. And
Yeah.
so for me, I'm just, like, I'm not that type of person. I don't need a lot of things. I need very much a very nice, unique thing that's going to stand the test of time. And so, I would say, one of my turnoffs to some of these boxes has been, quality, and then they start to undo their own purpose
Mm.
after a while.
Mhm.
And then, like I've been also very curious. The thing about Blue Apron and Hello Freshes of the world, I do feel like, they kind of, as you were talking about, have their audiences. And I feel like I see
Mhm.
their audience actually have sort of a life cycle. There's those who are just so bad at cooking that they will never ever learn, and they're going to stick with like HelloFresh or Blue Apron after a while.
Yeah.
There are those other ones of my friends where, you know what, they've graduated. They're like, great, someone taught me how to
Mhm.
cook salmon without burning it. I'm so happy. And then they go, wait, why am I paying $10 or $12 per serving effectively? I
Yeah.
could go to the store, especially when, you've got those other companies that are coming in like an Instacart, basically lowering the bar to getting fresh food to the
Yeah.
same as it is on Blue Apron. So, like I'll be very interested in how companies like a Blue Apron or a HelloFresh that are, or maybe even a Bonobos, right, that are
Mhm.
essentially teaching their audience how to live life better, how they continue to grow with that audience versus letting them basically graduate out of their program.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that is spot on. And just the idea of that sort of, not to be jargony, but sort of the customer lifetime value, right? Of like, okay, well, you've trusted us up until this point, but how do we kind of get to the next level? I think that's really, really interesting. Um, in that, yeah, and I don't know too. Another thing that we were kind of chatting about is the customer service that's being provided. So it's not just that product, but it's the responsiveness or the feedback you're given and that sort of thing. And scaling that up. I've seen this too. So a lot of new tech companies will put their product up on this community called producthunt.com, and they get this flood of people coming to their website, and they haven't scaled up their customer support team or their customer success team to map to what that demand is. And so I think that is another potential pitfall of those organizations. So not just boring their initial customer and their early adopters, but also making sure that they're scaling support to the demand so you still get that consistent experience.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like we've just gotten to break the surface on this. There's
Yeah.
like 1,001 conversations left, but I think we both have to go to work. So I'm going to wrap this up right now. Thank you so much, Liz. This was fun.
All right, great. Let's do it again.
All right, let's do it again. Thanks.
Okay.